The Bank of England review was today, and they decided to keep the rate at 5.25. So what does that mean? Initially, just so you understand, once they decide on what the Bank of England rate is going to be, that does affect what people are going to lend, but it also affects savings rates as well. So the fact that it is still quite high compared to COVID days, but over sort of the last sort of 20, 30 years, it's still relatively low. So we need to sort of remember that. Then it means that if you're saving for a deposit and you're saving in decent savings accounts, you've got a decent interest rate to save. The other thing is, if you're ready to buy and you don't want to wait anymore and you've decided now is the time, a lot of people are holding out for the interest rates to go down. So it is more of a buyer's market than it normally would be. Once the interest rates go down, and possibly it could happen at the beginning of May when the next review is, because it's just before elections, so you never know what they're going to do. Obviously they have their own elections, their policies and everything, that kind of stuff. So depending on what they think how it will affect the voters, then it will make a difference there. But what I'd like to say to you is, whatever you feel that you can afford, if you can afford it at the current rate, then it's definitely worth jumping on the bandwagon now. And then when you remortgage, hopefully you'll get a lower rate. But as long as you can afford it and you're on the ladder sooner rather than later, I think that's a good thing. If you can't afford it right now and you do have to wait for the interest rates to go down, then take advantage of the interest rates being high and save as much deposit as you can. That's what I'd say when I'm trying to give you some tips on what to do. Now, basically, when you're looking at preparing for getting mortgage ready, what I would say is, one, make sure you are on the electoral roll. They need to be able to find you. They need to know that you've got 3 years address history. So at the moment, if you wanted to vote, for example, you need to be on the electoral roll by the 16th of April. You can also get another up to 50 points on your credit score just by registering on the electoral roll. Now, what I will say is, when you are looking at your credit, look at your credit report. They look for missed payments, they look for late payments. That is what they're interested in. They're less interested in the actual score per se. But it all shows why you've got a decent credit score. So if the credit score is quite high, it probably means that you don't have late payments and you don't have missed payments and things like that. So it is important to keep your credit up. It's also important for those of you that have low or no credit to make sure that you work on your credit, either improving it by paying on time, and if you've got no credit, possibly getting a credit card and managing that well. So that's another tip. So the first one is go on the electoral roll. The second one is make sure your credit is good. And then the third one I'd say is make sure your bank statements are clean. So they're happy to see regular payments coming out of the current account every month going to a savings account, especially if they're the same amount as what a mortgage would be. Then they know that you can afford the mortgage when the time comes. They also like you to not be living in your overdraft and have some money at the end of the month. That really does help as well. They don't like direct debits that are going to individuals, because they see that as a credit commitment, so that could reduce your affordability. So the 3 things I would be working on is, 1, saving your deposit, make sure it's in the right savings account, the best savings account with the best interest rates. I'd also be looking at improving your credit, and I'd also be making sure that those bank statements are nice and clean. So now you've got those tips and you know what the Bank of England rate are, what are you going to do?